Bethany Stephens. Bethany Stephens was just 22 years old in December 2017 when she took her two pit bulls for a walk in the woods near her home in rural Virginia. These weren't new dogs or rescue animals with unknown histories. They were her pets, dogs she had raised and cared for. She loved them, and as far as anyone knew, they loved her back. She went into those woods with her dogs like she had done many times before, but this time, she never came back. Her father went looking for her when she didn't return home. What he found was something no parent should ever have to see. His daughter's body was lying on the ground, and her two dogs were standing over her guarding her remains. But they weren't protecting her from danger. They had been the danger. When investigators arrived, they found a horrific scene. Bethany's ribcage was visible through her torn clothing and flesh. The dogs had mauled her to death and then begun eating her body. The sheriff who responded to the scene had to tell the public something that seemed impossible to believe. These family pets had killed and partially consumed their owner. Some people refused to believe it at first. How could beloved pets do something so horrific? But the forensic evidence told the clear story. Bethany had defensive wounds on her body, showing she had tried to fight off the attack. The dogs had blood covering their jaws and mouths. There was no other explanation. The dog she trusted had turned on her in the woods and killed her. Nobody knows exactly what triggered the attack. Maybe something in the woods set them off. Maybe their prey drive kicked in. Maybe they got into a fight with each other and Bethany got caught in the middle. Whatever started it, two dogs she had cared for ended her life in one of the most brutal ways imaginable. Ann Walz. Ann Walz was 37 years old and living in Pennsylvania in October 2009. She owned a black bear that weighed 350 pounds. People keep all sorts of exotic pets, and Kelly had kept this bear for years. She thought she understood it. She thought she could handle it safely. On that October day, Kelly went into the bear's cage to clean it. This was routine, something she had done many times before. She tried to distract the bear with food while she worked, a strategy that had worked in the past. But this time, something went wrong. The bear attacked her inside the cage. And once a 350-pound bear decides to attack, there's almost nothing a human can do to stop it. The attack was brutal and quick. The worst part was that Kelly's children were there. They watched their mother being mauled to death by an animal she had trusted. They were helpless to do anything. A neighbor who heard the screams came running and shot the bear to end the attack, but by then it was too late. Kelly was already dead. Authorities who investigated the incident made a simple but important point. Despite being kept as a pet, the bear was still a wild animal. Kelly had treated it like a pet, but the bear never stopped being what it was, a dangerous predator. Charla Nash. In February 2009, Charla Nash went to visit her friend Sandra Harold in Stamford, Connecticut. Sandra owned a chimpanzee named Travis who weighed 200 pounds. Travis wasn't just any pet. He had been raised like a human child for 14 years. He wore clothes, used the bathroom, drank from a glass, and had appeared in TV commercials. He seemed as tame as any animal could be. Charla had been to Sandra's house many times before. Travis knew her. There was no reason to think anything would go wrong on this particular day. Sandra just needed help getting Travis back into the house, and Charla came over to assist. But when Charla arrived, something in Travis changed. Without any warning, the chimp attacked her with savage violence. He went after her face and hands with focused brutality. Sandra tried desperately to stop him. She hit him with a shovel, stabbed him with a knife. Nothing worked. She finally called 911, begging for help. When police arrived, Travis attacked their car. An officer shot him, and Travis retreated into the house where he died. But the damage to Charla was already done. The attack had been so severe that Charla lost her nose, lips, eyelids, and both hands. Her face was essentially gone. She survived, but her life as she knew it was over. She would eventually need a face transplant and a hand transplant, procedures that were still experimental at the time. The 911 call from that day is one of the most disturbing recordings you can hear. Sandra is screaming, begging for help, describing what's happening to her friend. The operator can barely understand what's being said because the situation is so unbelievable. Charla Nash survived, but she was left blind and severely disfigured. She needed years of surgeries and would never look the same or live independently again. Michal Prasak. He was 34 years old and living in the Czech Republic in March 2019. He kept 2 adult lions, a male and a female, in his backyard. He was keeping them illegally without permits, but he'd had them for years and felt confident he could manage them safely. His neighbors were terrified. They knew those lions were there, and they feared that eventually something terrible would happen. But Michal loved his lions and believed he had a special bond with them. One morning, Michal's father was checking the security cameras at his son's property. What he saw on the screen made his blood run cold. His son was lying motionless inside the lion enclosure, and the 9-year-old male lion was standing near the body. The lion had mauled Michal to death. When police arrived, they couldn't get close to the body because both lions were still in the enclosure, treating it as their territory. Officers had to shoot and kill both the male and the female lion before they could safely recover Michal's remains. Isabelle Dinoire. Isabelle Dinoire was 38 years old in May 2005 when she had an epileptic episode and passed out in her home in France. She owned a Labrador Retriever mix, a breed that most people consider gentle and family-friendly. This was her pet, an animal she trusted completely. When Isabelle woke up from her seizure, she knew immediately that something was terribly wrong. She touched her face and felt nothing where her nose should have been. Her lips were gone. Parts of her chin were missing. She stumbled to a mirror and saw something from a nightmare. Half of her face was simply gone. Her dog had done this while she was unconscious. The Labrador had chewed off her nose, lips, and parts of her chin. Essentially, the dog had eaten half of her face while she lay helpless on the floor. The injuries were so catastrophic that normal reconstructive surgery couldn't fix them. Surgeons in France made the decision to attempt something that had never been done before: the world's first partial face transplant. They essentially gave Isabelle a new face using tissue from a donor. Later, Isabelle tried to understand what had happened. She believed that maybe the dog had been trying to wake her up from the seizure and panicked when she wouldn't respond. Maybe the dog thought she was dead and its scavenging instincts took over. Nobody knows for sure what made a family Labrador do something so horrific. Jade Lomas Anderson. He was just 14 years old in March 2013 when she went to visit a friend's house in Greater Manchester, England. The friend's family owned 4 large dogs, 2 bull mastiffs, and 2 Staffordshire bull terriers. These were family pets that lived in the house. Jade had probably been around them before without any problems. At some point, Jade was left alone with the 4 dogs. Something triggered them. Maybe they saw her as an intruder. Maybe one dog started acting aggressively and the others joined in. Whatever the reason, all 4 dogs attacked her at once. The attack was prolonged and brutal. The dogs chased Jade throughout the house, biting her repeatedly. She had no way to escape and no way to fight off 4 powerful dogs that had decided she was a threat or prey. When police arrived at the scene, they found Jade dead from catastrophic bite injuries. The evidence showed this hadn't been a quick attack. It had gone on for some time, with the dogs pursuing her through multiple rooms. Armed officers had to shoot and kill all 4 dogs on site before they could safely secure the area. Jade's death shocked the nation. This wasn't an attack by strange dogs on the street. This happened in a private home with pets that belonged to people the family knew. A teenage girl went to visit a friend and never came home because the friend's family dogs turned into killers. Marvin Hajos. He was 75 years old and living in Florida in April 2019. He kept an exotic pet that most people have never even heard of: a cassowary. This is a large flightless bird from Australia and New Guinea that's often called the world's most dangerous bird. Cassowaries stand about 6 feet tall, weigh around 100 pounds, and have dagger-like claws that are 4 inches long. They use these claws to defend themselves by kicking with incredible force. In the wild, they're normally reclusive and avoid humans, but when threatened or cornered, they can be deadly. On that April day, Marvin was tending to his cassowary on his property when he tripped and fell. That moment of vulnerability was all it took. The cassowary saw him on the ground and attacked, using its powerful legs to kick him with those razor-sharp claws. The claws sliced through Marvin's flesh, inflicting massive trauma. He was rushed to the hospital, but the injuries were too severe. He died from the wounds the bird had caused. The Cockfighting Tragedy. In February 2021, in the Indian state of Telangana, a man in his 40s was participating in an illegal cockfight. Cockfighting involves attaching blades to roosters' legs and having them fight each other while people bet on the outcome. It's illegal in India, but underground cockfighting rings still operate. This man was preparing his fighting rooster for a match. He was attaching a 3-inch knife blade to the rooster's leg when the bird started struggling to escape. In the chaos, the rooster managed to slash the man's groin with the blade that was being attached to its leg. The blade cut deep into an artery. Blood poured from the wound. The man's friends rushed him to the hospital, but he bled to death on the way there. He had been killed by his own rooster, using the weapon he himself had been attaching to the bird. Police seized the blood-stained rooster as evidence and launched a manhunt for the other people involved in the illegal cockfighting operation. If you enjoyed this, then check out the most brutal shark attacks ever here.